But you're saying that's computer science.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically it's the abstraction of computer programming languages into two basic components. And one is object, and the other one is event.
During his time here, he carried on alarmingly with bits and pieces of music called objects. Some were numbered, some were written out with attendant scores and parts. Some were played out by Frank or members of his various rock and teenage combos.
Right.
So basically, everything that happens in the context of a computer program can be described in either an object form or an event form, and that's all you need to build a computer program.
I found something in Wikipedia. Object-oriented programming has its roots that can be traced to the 1960s. Now, that would not have been generally well known back then. So
No.
Frank was picking up on the meme of object-oriented programming.
Most are likely recognizable to hardcore listeners, but not all objects are groups of notes or even groups. The idea of object extends all the way down to every nook and cranny of his life.
He's aware he's moving to virtual reality, and so he states in that thing I read you the chemical body's response to the virtual reality and what his new program is. I mean, if you put a little thing, a wink, an eyebrow thing in a trillion pins, you can retrieve that with digital technology.
But also, if you're about to embark on a giant environmental programming operation, it helps putting it into abstract form, like objects and events, creates a center point that you can actually work with. It's like having stuff, just a generic kind of stuff, in quotes, that you can mold. Brings order to it.
Throughout the length and breadth of what Frank Zappa unilaterally denoted as Project Object. In his autobiography, The Real Frank Zappa, he described this as the overall concept of my work in various mediums. Each project in whatever realm or interview connected to it is part of a larger object from which there is no technical name.
Yeah, it's interesting, Chad, what you were just saying about events and objects in relation to object-oriented programming. Because an event would be like clicking a link with your mouse, which would then, evoke objects, which would then be bits of code that would be run in relation to that event which triggered the object.
Most of the web applications that you use during the day are they're based on an event-driven model, and the events are changing the state of objects.
Yeah.
Or they're triggering other events. And I heard, was it object and event? The first thing that popped into my mind, having programming experience, was object-oriented programming. If someone was about to embark on this kind of programming on such a mass level, it really would help to adapt the most leading-edge form of programming that had been discussed at that time. And like in the 60s, you would have had computer scientists at MIT would have been starting to buzz about object-oriented programming, because it was a major, major paradigm shift. And it helped accelerate the growth of the Android meme, because relying on the old procedural form was less efficient. So you increase the speed of development by orders of magnitude, which allowed for a faster evolution.
What a programmer does is he ends up teams of programmers end up developing libraries of objects, which can be evoked by a programmer. Wants to sit down, he wants to create a new program. All he has to do is think of what events he wants to evoke what objects, and he can link those events to objects that are in object libraries.
During his time here, he carried on alarmingly with bits and pieces of music called objects. Some were numbered, some were written out with attendant scores and parts. Some were played out by Frank or members of his various rock and teenage combos.
Object has responsibilities and has collaborators, and you could look at little subgroups within even the United Mutations, you know what I mean? You could have set that up to have these different sort of modules that interact with each other that way. Or he could even apply it to the arrangement of musicians on stage and the way that they work in clusters.
And the way he conducted them. with prearranged hand
Exactly.
signals.
Yep, and the way that he conducts them is akin to the way that, like, the lead engineer on a software project would conduct all the other teams of engineers. Where so much so that one department of an engineering team might not even know what software they're working on, because they're only seeing part of it.